Hey up lads and lasses, Damphyre here, back again with some more Infinite Lagrange. We are down to 2 cruisers left, which is getting there, so yeah, we've got the KCCPV and the Predator for this week, and then moving on to either the Corvettes or the Fighters. So let me know down in the comments if you'd rather the Fighters or the Corvettes. I'll probably do a poll this time. Yeah, it makes sense to do a poll for that one, right? And find out what you guys know, want Fighters or Vets first. When I get to cruisers, carriers and battleships and all that stuff, maybe not Ox ships. I probably won't do the auxiliary ships. I don't have the Idiot Karen. Because, yeah, that one's... yeah, there's not much going on there anyway, really. They basically don't have a use either of them, to be honest, either, so you really won't be using them. So when I get to the battle cruisers, I'll do my best with the battle cruisers and the carriers. Marshal Crooks, for example, I have like pretty much, I don't think I have any of its bits, which is a bit unfortunate because it is actually quite a good ship. I've got one, but it's one of the completely worthless ones. And same for the battle cruisers. Some of them I don't have much on, but I know how they work and what the setups are. So I will talk about those, and I'll try and get some screenshots of somebody if I can. I think that'll be mostly for the spear or something of that nature. I've got the ST-59. I've got the important ones for the CTG. I'm missing one for the Eternal Storm. And the spear, I think I'm just missing the heavy armor and one of the M2 weapons. And the Thunderbolt, I have nothing on, but generally speaking, it's not a well-used ship. It's high DPM, but it's so glass cannony. You can't really make use of it, especially if you want to try and make use of its command module. It just doesn't really work out too well because of it being so squidgy. So anyway, back to the cruisers. We have the Predator and we have the KCCPV 2.0. I'll do the Predator now because the KCCPV I'll leave to last because no one's really going to watch that too much, I don't think, except maybe some new players. So yeah, there you go. So the Predator is the quintessential cruiser carrier. It carries 4 medium fighters. It means you can't fit large, which is a little bit unfortunate. I'd like to have seen maybe the anti-aircraft type change to carry large and then lose its weapon systems entirely or something of that nature and carry 4 large in. That would have been quite nice because then it would give you an option to use something other than carriers to carry large in, although I guess it would compete with the KCCPV in that situation. The tactical type, really useful because it brings in those info UAVs. You get 3 of them on this thing, and you can also force it to buff cruisers, which is quite nice. Unfortunately, the Predator itself is a cruiser, so it just kind of buff itself. So the generic type, it's pretty bog standard at 18 CP for 4 medium fighters, is bang on the CP cost-wise with the destroyers because they're 2 for 9 CP. So you can mix or match these regardless, but it depends a little bit on what you're running. In hybrid fleet, these can fit because you run a mix of cruisers, usually cruisers a bit further forward, IOs and the like. So it has the ability to have something tank for it. If you are running Swarm, these do get used again, and that's mostly because of the command system to get strategic strikes. And I think on one of them, sorry, no, it is on the base version, isn't it? In the aircraft, you get the strategy to attack super caps. So they do run in both of those fleets. Swarm a little less so. Swarm a little more so. In hybrid, a little less so because you're not trying to bring in Swarm anyway, so you don't need other carriers outside of a reinforce of carriers, usually with that fleet design. So yeah, otherwise it'd just be Swarm, just heavy Swarm or something of that nature. So it is a back row ship, which is obviously pretty important. You're sat at 50 armor and 10% energy res. You got a nice base of 76,000 HP, so it is relatively tanky for what it is. bear in mind it doesn't really bring any damage in itself. It is all about fighters here. So yeah, armor first, because back row, if you're going up to the point where you have predators and stuff out, there's a good chance the enemies have fighters out or bombers out themselves. Predators will get targeted, so you want to get them tanked. Otherwise, yeah, it's just not going to be very pretty for it when it dies and you just lose 4 fighters flat out. They don't even have to kill the fighters if the carrier gets killed. So yeah, bear that in mind. And this is why on carriers and stuff, I like to pump, even if they are back row, where sometimes I don't go too hard into the armor and stuff like that. I will go on back row carriers, full armor, because like I said, things like fetus bees and stuff will try and target these. I can try and target these, and if they do get onto them, they drop really fast. So just try to keep them alive a little bit longer, just to get your aircraft to get as much damage out, is a good bet, to be honest. Double HP buff here, energy res and the physical res. You have 4 slots. That's all you want to grab at the start. You can ignore the crit damage. It doesn't really do much here, unfortunately. And then over straight into the aircraft system. With the aircraft system, this is going to depend a little bit on whether you want to pick up the strategy or not. Now, the strategy is going to help you if you see other swarm fleets. A lot of them like to run carriers, and you want your guys to attack carriers. Or if you want to be in a position where you want to put fighters on this, don't pick up the prioritized targets. Only pick it up if you're putting things that you want to try and target, hangars, engines, and use medium fighters like the Fetus A on this. That's when you want to pick up prioritized targets, so you can try and, take opponents' ability to carry out with, destroying hangars, or you take out their engines, so when the carrier dies, they lose the carrier, like properly lose it, which is a very costly loss. And that was all its use is for. It's the same for the tactical, it's the same for the anti-air type. They all do sort of exactly the same thing, basically. Just some have some little extra nuances about them, the tactical with its UAVs and stuff. That being said, there are 2 builds then to go for. If you are running Vetus E's, Newlands, and the like, and you are trying to take out weapon systems and that kind of stuff, take prioritized targets first, then go into double cooldown and lock on speed. You don't care about the damage here, because you don't really buff the damage much on things like Strixes, not Strixes, on Newlands and Vetus Bees anyway, and then pick up the hit rate. Damage, again, like I said, doesn't matter. Missile evasion is an option here. If you are going to pick it, I would probably drop the target lock-on speed here and then pick up the missile evasion. And that's if you start seeing winged hussars being used in fleets. It is pretty meta at the moment, so be aware of that. And then you would go prioritize targets, double cooldown, evasion, and pick up hit rate last. The hit rate doesn't matter too much on the likes of Vetus A's. Hit rate is a little bit more useful for the Newlands and the likes of those type of fighters. Vetus A's, they're pretty good at hitting targets, so I wouldn't worry too much about buffing their hit rate further with the carrier slot. In the case of putting just pure fighters on here, like Strix, there are better options, obviously. Strix or pretty much any of the fighters, really. You will want to pick up this hit rate earlier, but you won't be picking up prioritized targets. So you will be going double cooldown, hit rate, lock on, and missile evasion instead in that case. And yeah, it's a pretty solid base for fighters. It's just there are better options. Personally, I think, anything that gives more hit rate is better. This only gives you, an extra 20% hit rate. You can get more elsewhere, so bear that in mind. And that's pretty much the 2 builds. You literally don't have to do anything else on the Predators. That will make them work quite nicely, with the option of going into command system, picking up Strategic Strike 2. If you do want a bit of Strategic Strike, I highly, highly recommend never using strategic strike with fighters. It's not very good whatsoever. Just ignore it. Ignore that fighters can even do strategic strike. They are terrible at it. And again, you can pick up range bonuses. But yeah, you don't have to go into its defensive battery. Its AA capabilities are awful. Its projectile weapon system is like negligible at best. 65 damage per hit. It prioritizes aircraft. It never bloody hits them. It's counter-attack anyway. Its defensive battery, same thing. Counter-attack, you get 20 damage. Oh, you get an additional 20 damage. I don't believe any of them get a strategy to give it row wide as well. So, generally speaking, it does get row wide on this. Okay, this doesn't work then because I've maxed out my Predators because I think they look really cool doing so. But yeah, this doesn't clearly work, which is a bit of a shame. If you are going to try and max it out, probably go into its missile system next, pick up the strategy. Double hit rate is an absolute necessity here. Double cooldown, that's 5 of your 6 slots going. Probably lock on efficiency. You don't have much damage to buff, so the damage buff's sort of like not particularly useful here. That's what I'd go there. But again, don't expect these to do like AA, like not even like a little bit. They're pretty awful at it. Same for the aircraft, the defensive weapon system. You're probably going to go hit rate, fighters, corvettes here. It's going to prioritize aircraft, so I would probably ignore the hit rate against frigates, destroyers in this case. Go and double cooldown and lock on efficiency again. The damage is negligible. You're going to get 2 damage for 3 tech points here, which is like, you just get the 15% cooldown reduction. It is just a little bit better. I mean, it's not got bad lock-on times, and lock-on efficiency isn't even listed here, but it is just better than going damage, I've found anyway. But again, don't expect any damage output from it. Props, 3 slots. Double warp speed, cruising speed is my preference there. Double cruise speed, warp speed is an option though. And yeah, like I said, it's a great little ship. You just need its armor system, its aircraft loading, maybe go into the props and you're good. Ignore the defensive battery system and the projectile weapon system. If you have the spare tech points, you can upgrade it, and it does look really good maxed out. The Predator is one of the better looking ships maxed out. It's got like hangars all look like armored up and stuff like that. It's quite a cool looking ship, and it is one of my favorite looking ships in the game. I have a fondness of carriers. Even when I play like Space Engineers and stuff, I always make up something that always has something kind of hanger on the side, because I just think hangars look cool. And yeah, quite a generic looking ship, but it just serves the purpose of carrying, and I think that has a charm about it. The tactical type, it's pretty much exactly the same as the A-type. You are dropping its useless missile system for the information command system, which gives you a couple of little extra hangars on top, and they're for the UAVs. But same thing again, into its armor system, double HP, energy res and physical res. Going into its aircraft loading system, same thing as A-type. You want to go, if you're running this to try and take out, weapon systems and stuff like that, go prioritize targets, double cooldown, hit rate, evasion, or drop evasion for lock-on speed, depending on which aircraft you put in. If you're putting things like Strix in here, you drop the prioritized targets and you pick up the lock-on speed anyway, and that is how you max that out pretty quickly. And then the information command system is worth going into. You can see I've definitely used this because 10% additional hit rate's been unlocked on it. And then prioritized support is a double-edged sword, really. So, like I said at the start of the video, this will allow it to prioritize... when your fleet has cruise, it prioritizes fire support for them by dispatching aircraft, which means it puts these UAVs onto the cruisers. The problem is, it is in itself a cruiser, which means it does buff itself quite regularly, which means it is slightly worse than the series, tactical for it, but at the same time, it's also bringing in its own aircraft, where the series isn't. It's kind of like a 9 CP for just buffs, where this is 18 CP for 4 aircraft plus buffs. So generally speaking, if you are running the series tactical, drop them and run these instead. These are just a better way of getting the buff out, in my opinion, because you're also bringing aircraft, so you get a little bit of extra utility out of it. If you are running cruisers, absolutely pick up prioritize support, and then bring target lock-on speed. Ignore chances of being hit by guided weapons, in my opinion. It doesn't really necessarily matter too much on the Predators, I found. I noticed very little difference when picking this up and the damage it took. So yeah, go hit rate, lock on, and flight time. Saying that, hit rate doesn't really matter too much on UAVs, but it does say it buffs hit rate of aircraft or UAVs in the hangar, so it might buff the main hangar. I need to test that a little bit more, but it's a very difficult one to test because hit rate's all chance-based regardless anyway. So yeah, prioritize support, battlefield, radar enhancement, go into the aircraft maintenance, acceleration. The cooldown's probably better than going on the lock-on speed, but I like getting the buff out a little bit quicker, because if it does manage to lock onto one of my IOs or something of that nature, their damage increase is quite significant because of it. Aircraft maintenance, and then you can, I'll let you guys choose. Go either the guidance detection jamming or go for the auxiliary attack radar. It's up to you on that one, I think. And yeah, that's it for this one as well. You can go into its command system. You got, say, the same strategic strike, although this one increases the angle instead of the range. So it wraps, it's quite far around. I think it gets like 270 degrees, I think, like max or something of that nature. It's it goes from a cone to sort of going behind the ship a little bit. You'll like that or won't like that, depending on how you use your strategic strikes. And yeah, and then into the propulsion system and going double warp speed, cruising speed, or double cruise speed, warp speed, depending on what you're doing with it. Defensive battery, same as before. You can completely ignore this system, and I'd recommend doing so if you want to be tech point efficient. But if you don't, again, ignore the frigates, destroyers, pick up the hit rate against fighters, corvettes, and go double cooldown and lock on efficiency, because same as before, it's literally no point in picking up the damage here. So yeah, there you go. And that's pretty much the Predator. The anti-aircraft type drops the weapon system, this missile system, off for a different type of anti-aircraft missile system. And honestly, it doesn't seem to really do much in the way of anti-aircraft. It's a bit of a shame, because if this actually had the capability of doing decent AA, it would be like the B-type. I mean, the generic is just flat out outweighed by both the B and the C-type, in my opinion. But the C-type having slightly better anti-air does actually make it better than the A-type. But they're all usable, but there is just like a flat power creep. The B-type is, and the C-type are just better than the A-type in this situation. Most ships are, normally the A-type's pretty good, and you have to make a choice between the A or the B-type depending on what you're doing. Taurus comes to mind with the A and the B-type being the assault and the A being the just generic. One's better against anti-small, one's better against anti-large. And similar here, but because the generic type's missile damage is so absolutely worthless, that the anti-aircraft type is, in my opinion, the better one to take over it, and the tactical type is better to take over it. Same as before, into its armor system, double HP, physical res, and energy res to start you off. Again, same reason as before. Aircraft loading system, and this is literally identical every single time. If you are running things to try and take out super caps, pick up the prioritized targets, double cooldown, hit rate, and either the evasion or the lock-on speed. Probably go evasion, to be honest with you. And then if you are not doing taking stuff to specifically target super caps, go double cooldown, hit rate, lock-on speed, and the evasion, and you're pretty much good to go there. Anti-aircraft missile type, as you can see, we get a load of slots here, 7 in total. You do get anti-aircraft support, so you get that ability to lock onto nearby rows. And then it's double hit rate, double cooldown, and then intercept, and then lock on efficiency, if I remember right, because you have 7 slots, right? So that's 2, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there's your 7. Ignore the damage again, because again, the damage is not particularly great on here. And the lock on efficiency is pretty bad. So getting that little buff is quite nice. Again, you got anti-aircraft special ammo and anti-aircraft cycle, so you get additional cooldown. There's high speed, so you know it's not a bad anti-aircraft weapon system. What confuses me is why it doesn't work as well as it looks like it should, because on paper the stats of this thing plus the buffs you can give it make it so it should be absolutely just slapping, but it's really not. So I generally not sure what's going wrong there. It's out of my qualifications to work that one out, unfortunately. Onto the propulsion system. Double warp and a cruising speed, or double cruising speed and a warp speed. And then if you do want to max out, you have your command system again. You do get, when aircraft of the fleet's at disadvantage, anti-air weapons in the fleet will attack aircraft first, increasing the hit rate by 5%. This is actually an important strategy to use when you're running hybrid, because if you come against Swarm and this triggers, you absolutely decimate the Swarm's ability to actually DPM, and this actually does have an effect. And because you will always be at a disadvantage against the enemy fleet, against Swarm with aircraft, because you just don't take as many. So yeah, this actually works quite nicely, and one of the only uses I think I've ever seen of it is that sort of Swarm versus hybrid setup. So you can consider taking it. I tend to run IO instead to just lock Swarm in place so I can kill as much of their stuff as possible, because if they lose a couple of carries, they ain't coming back for at least a day. So yeah. Into its defensive, after that, hit rate against fighters, corvettes, double cooldown, lock-on efficiency is what you'll go for there. Same exact generic cannon system as on the A and the B, so nothing really changes there. So that is it for the Predator. The generic type, great carrier, very generic, it's generic type, it's generic, it does what it says on the box, it carries 4 things in, it has a missile system that doesn't do anything really. So if you do pick up the B-type or the C-type, just swap them out. The B-type, the UAVs are really, really good. They are, unfortunately, a bit of a problem because you can't, forcibly, get them onto a cruiser that might not be the Predator, which can be a pain. If you don't pick up the strategy on it, I don't think I mentioned this, it has a tendency to buff aircraft, which is actually quite good. Sometimes, you'll see your Mistrals or your Vita Speeds. Vita Speeds do get buffed a lot by it, I found. So yeah, bear that in mind. If you do want them potentially buff an aircraft, just don't pick up the strategy to prioritize cruisers, and it just seems to buff aircraft a lot. It likes doing it, which I'm not going to complain about. Giving my Vita Speeds as much hit rate as you bloody want. If they hit every shot, it's going to really damn hurt. And yeah. The C-type, again, better than the generic A-type in my opinion. It has got slightly more AA. It's still not great AA. It's no Wings Assault or anything of that nature. But it does do, decent amount of damage. It will mostly only just target things in the back row, which can happen quite often because, again, back row will get targeted by aircraft quite frequently. And the intercept on it is actually quite nice because, again, it will start intercepting missiles and the likes, which is just quite good. So, yeah. All of them have pretty much the same similar loadout. It's just you're switching a slight utility function on them. And they're all just pretty good ships. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.